For over a millennium, the Beta Israel community, Ethiopian Jews, have lived in the shadows of isolation, preserving their faith and traditions amid a completely different society. Their lives are a testament to the miraculous power of faith, perseverance, and God's protection. Despite being forgotten by history, they have remained steadfast in their faith in God's promises, living according to ancient Jewish principles and customs. The lessons from the life of Beta Israel not only teach us the power of steadfast faith, but also serve as a reminder that, even in difficult circumstances, God is always there, guiding and protecting His children. Despite their isolation, they did not lose their connection with their Creator, and through this, we learn that perseverance in faith will help us overcome any challenge and find comfort and hope in any situation. The story of Beta Israel is a living testament to God's loyalty and unconditional love for all of us. Number 1. Tradition and Promise. The story of Beta Israel. Within the turbulent history of the people of Israel, there is a remarkable story of faith and resilience. It is the story of Beta Israel, a community of Ethiopian Jews who claim to be descendants of the tribe of Dan, one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Despite many challenges, this tradition has remained steadfast over the centuries, with biblical prophecies acting as a guiding light, guiding a hopeful journey. In particular, the promise in Isaiah 11:12, where God promises to gather the people of Israel from the four corners of the earth, has given Beta Israel a strong faith, helping them maintain their faith even when isolated from the rest of the Jewish community. Beta Israel is not just a religious community, but also a living testament to a deep bloodline and spiritual bond with the people of Israel. Their story begins with a long tradition, where they believed that their ancestor Judah bore a high life in the east-west. They migrated from the land of Israel following the Assyrian invasion. They thought that the tribe of Dan, one of the lost tribes of Israel, made its way to Ethiopia via Egypt, bringing with it ancient Jewish values and beliefs. Although this story is not easily proven, over the centuries it has become a strong foundation for their faith, creating a tradition that has endured to this day. The prophecy in Isaiah 11:12 was deeply ingrained in Beta Israel, where they believed that one day God would bring them back to Zion, Jerusalem, the sacred place of the people of Israel. Despite living in isolation and persecution, the community held on to the belief that their restoration was not just a distant promise, but a reality that would come true. And finally, at the end of the 20th century, the Great Migration from Ethiopia to Israel took place, an event that is seen as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Major campaigns such as Operation Moses and Operation Solomon brought thousands of Beta Israelites from Ethiopia to Israel, making their dream of returning to their homeland a reality. Beta Israel maintained a unique system of religious practice throughout this long and arduous journey. Unlike other Jewish communities, they continued to observe the Torah, upholding ancient rituals such as the Sabbath and the dietary laws of kashrut, reflecting the steadfastness of their faith. These rituals were an essential part of their religious life and a means by which the community preserved its cultural and spiritual identity over generations. Despite being isolated and minor, recognized by the rest of the Jewish world, Beta Israel remained steadfast in their belief in God's promise that they would return and be reunited with their people. What is unique about Beta Israel's tradition is its separation from the Talmudic movements, traditions that were formed after the biblical period. They do not practice the teachings of the Talmud, nor do they celebrate festivals such as Hanukkah or post-Babylonian rituals. Instead, they focus on maintaining the rules of the Torah, creating an ancient system of Judaism that is unaffected by later religious movements. This helps them retain their original identity and beliefs without mixing or changing over time. The language of Beta Israel is also an essential part of preserving their heritage. They use a unique dialect, a combination of Hebrew and Amharic, the official language of Ethiopia. This blend not only reflects the union of two cultures, but also demonstrates their perseverance in protecting their identity over the centuries. Every word, every sentence carries a connection between the past and the present, between the people of Israel and the Beta Israel community, between the promises of God and the journey to Zion. Unlike other Jewish communities, Beta Israel faced many challenges during their centuries of isolation. They were discriminated against and suffered persecution from surrounding communities, but their faith remained steadfast. They held fast to their Jewish traditions, seeing them as the only way to affirm their national identity and connection to their ancestors. This resilience enabled Beta Israel to connect deeply to God's promise and the people of Israel, an integral part of the global Jewish heritage. As we look back on their journey, from the early days of migration from Ethiopia through the years of isolation to their return to Jerusalem during the migration campaigns of the late 20th century, we can clearly feel the greatness of the biblical promise. Beta Israel is not just a religious community, but a living testament to the resilience of faith, hope for restoration, and the return of the people of Israel. They are essential to the larger story of God's promise to Israel and the world. The faith of Beta Israel is a reminder to all of us of God's faithfulness, of the biblical promises we can trust, and of the power of perseverance in our quest for restoration and redemption. They were not only keepers of ancient traditions, but also living testimonies to the greatness of God's promise to Israel and to all who trust Him. Number 2. The journey from the Promised Land, Beta Israel and the promise of God. The journey of Beta Israel is not just a story of physical migration. It is a journey of hardship, connected to the prophecies and promises of God. Their story begins in northern Israel, when the tribes of Israel, including the tribe of Dan, were scattered and invaded by the Assyrian Empire in the 8th century BC. These Israelites were not only refugees, but also people with deep religious traditions and beliefs, who survived many trials. These migrants traveled south, passing through Egypt, crossing the Nile, and finally finding refuge in the remote mountains of Ethiopia. It was not just a geographical migration, but also a spiritual journey. Beta Israel has preserved their ancestors' sacred traditions over the centuries. They consider themselves descendants of the ancient Israelite tribes, especially the tribe of Dan, who disappeared after the dispersion. One of the most prominent legends of the Beta Israel community is the story of the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. According to some Ethiopian historical records, the Queen of Sheba visited King Solomon in Jerusalem, an event mentioned in the Bible, 1 Kings 10. They gave birth to Menelik I from this meeting, who later brought the Ark of the Covenant back to Ethiopia. The Ark of the Covenant, a sacred symbol of God's presence, became part of the Beta Israel's religious heritage, underpinning their beliefs and connecting them to critical biblical events. With the Ark of the Covenant, the Beta Israel saw themselves as the heirs of ancient Israel and the custodians of Israel's sacred religious heritage. They forged a deep connection with biblical prophecies, maintaining their ethnic and religious identity for thousands of years, despite isolation and hostility from outsiders. Despite living in isolation in Ethiopia, they maintained Jewish rituals, observing the Torah, eating kosher, and observing the Sabbath. For the Beta Israel community, life in Ethiopia, despite its harsh terrain and lack of material resources, did not diminish their faith. They continued to preserve their religious traditions, rejecting the influence of post-biblical customs such as Hanukkah, and held fast to their ancient form of Judaism, faithful to the teachings passed down from their ancestors. The long and challenging journey of the Beta Israel is not only a story of physical migration, but also a testament to the strength and resilience of faith. Over the centuries, they have not given up on their dream of returning to Zion, to the promised land of Jerusalem. In Isaiah chapter 11 verse 12, God promised to bring the people of Israel back from all over the world. Beta Israel believed that they would be part of this return. The dream of Zion was always burning in their hearts, and despite the countless challenges they faced, they never lost hope. In the 19th century, small groups of Beta Israel began to migrate to Israel, despite attacks from enemies and famine. The journey was not easy, but their perseverance did not weaken. Finally, in the late 20th century, Beta Israel was recognized as part of the Jewish community under Halacha law in 1973, giving them the right to return to Israel. Migration campaigns such as Operation Moses 1984 and Operation Solomon 1991 helped thousands of Beta Israel immigrate to Israel. The secret flights from Sudan and Ethiopia to Israel were not just geographical journeys, but also steps closer to fulfilling biblical promises. The Beta Israel community, with its resilience and robust recovery, demonstrated that faith and loyalty can overcome any hardship. Although life in Israel has not been without its challenges, from integrating into an urbanized society to facing poverty and discrimination, Beta Israel has demonstrated resilience and resilience. They have contributed to the country's development, from education, technology, to politics, while maintaining the religious values and traditions they have protected for thousands of years. The story of Beta Israel is a living testament to the promises of the Bible. Their return to Israel and their restoration is not only a demonstration of the longevity of a people, but also an affirmation of the power of faith, perseverance, and loyalty. In a challenging world, Beta Israel's journey reminds us that God's prophecies can always be fulfilled, and that a people, no matter how many hardships they may face, can survive and thrive through faith and perseverance. The journey of Beta Israel is a testament to the power of God's promise. They faced many challenges, but they persevered in their faith and never gave up on their dream of Zion. And through their journey, they demonstrated that a people faithful to God's promise will never be forgotten. Number 3, resilience and strength from faith. The story of Beta Israel, a Jewish community in Ethiopia, is a living testament to human resilience in the face of hardship. Despite countless challenges, they not only held on to their faith, but also preserved their unique cultural identity. Like the biblical people of Israel, Beta Israel has endured hardships throughout history, and their story reflects the enduring power of faith, resilience, and fidelity to God's promises. Beta Israel faced discrimination and persecution from the surrounding community, especially from Ethiopians. They were considered different and strange because of their distinct religious and cultural traditions. Despite their isolation, they maintained the ancient rituals of Judaism. They lived in isolation in the mountains of Ethiopia, where they could protect and preserve their faith without being disrupted by the world around them. Despite pressure to convert and join other religions, Beta Israel never succumbed. They steadfastly adhered to traditional religious regulations, such as kosher dietary laws and circumcision. These regulations were not only religious obligations, but also symbols of their unshakable spiritual strength and resilience. Throughout their history, Beta Israel also maintained their ancient Jewish culture. They preserved rituals and traditions related to the Torah, such as observance of the Sabbath and the rules of purity in daily life. Unlike Jewish communities elsewhere, they did not adopt rabbinical teachings after the Babylonian exile, but maintained a primitive form of Judaism, close to the original principles recorded in the Bible. Even their language, a mixture of Hebrew and Amharic, reflects the uniqueness of this community. The challenges for Beta Israel come not only from social discrimination, but also from political tensions. They must fight to maintain their faith and protect their rights and cultural identity in a society that seeks to eliminate differences. Despite their isolation and hardship, they remain steadfast in their faith in God's promise that they will one day return to Jerusalem, their true home. Beta Israel's loyalty to their faith is a powerful reflection of the biblical story of Daniel. Despite the temptations from the cultures around them, they remain steadfast in their faith in God, unshaken by foreign customs. This loyalty is not only a testament to inner strength, but also a reminder of human resilience in all circumstances. But the story of Beta Israel is not just one of hardship, it is also one of rebirth and hope. The journey from Ethiopia to Israel in the 20th century, primarily through the campaigns of Moses and Solomon, was miraculous. It was a testament to the biblical promise that God would gather his people worldwide. The challenges this community faced could not stop them from achieving their goal. Ultimately, Beta Israel could return to Jerusalem, which they had always believed would be the destination of their faith journey. Beta Israel's story is a reminder of the robust resilience that every human being can find in faith. It shows that no matter how complex and challenging life may be, we can always overcome any obstacle with faith in God. Despite everything, faith is not only a source of spiritual strength, but also a driving force for rebirth and growth. The story of Beta Israel, with all their hardships, is a testament to human resilience and limitless capacity to recover when they stand firm in their faith and hold on to their values. Number 4, the journey back to Zion, promise, and faith. The dream of Jerusalem is not only a religious aspiration for Beta Israel, but also a symbol of unwavering faith and hope for a brighter future. This is not an ordinary dream, but a spiritual journey, a return to the land of their ancestors, where Jerusalem is located, the holy city, symbol of restoration for a people promised by God to return in the last days. This promise, which begins with the prophecies in the Bible, is God's unwavering commitment. In Deuteronomy 34:4, God promised that the people of Israel would be brought back from all corners of the earth. This promise has lasted for centuries, but in 1973, this prophecy began to be fulfilled when the Israeli government officially recognized Beta Israel as part of the Jewish people. This was not only a legal recognition, but also an opening door for the Beta Israel community to realize their great dream, the journey back to the promised land, back to their people. Operation Moses in 1984 was the next central turning point in that journey. Organized to bring more than 8,000 Ethiopian Jews back to Israel, this operation was the result of the tireless efforts of the Israeli government and the international community. However, the journey was not easy. The Ethiopian Jews had to hide in the border areas between Ethiopia and Sudan, facing unforeseen dangers. Their leaders had to negotiate skillfully with the Sudanese government to ensure they could safely move across the border, starting their journey back. Although special flights were prepared to bring them back, the operation encountered many challenges. Closed borders, attacks from insurgents, and firestorms of war were the significant obstacles that the Beta Israelites faced. They had to cross desolate lands, endure long and dangerous journeys, so that one day they could stand before the gates of the Promised Land. But their faith in God's promise was unshakable. Despite the harsh conditions, they continued their journey, a journey that was not only about space, but also about faith and perseverance. Then, in 1991, Operation Solomon appeared again as a continuation of Operation Moses to complete the journey of returning the Beta Israelites. This was an emergency move, which took place in May 1991, when more than 400 people were moved from Sudan to Israel. The journey occurred under harsh conditions, with secret flights lasting 36 hours, traveling through dangerous lands. The participants in this campaign faced the brutality of war, attacks from rival armies, and political tensions in the region. But the hope of a brighter future gave them strength. Their resilience not only brought them back to Zion, but also proved God's prophecy. The dream of return was finally realized, not only as a political victory, but also as the fulfillment of a divine promise. The Beta Israels, from their exile, returned to Israel, where they could live and thrive in a community of freedom and restoration. Israel's policy in 1977, recognizing Beta Israel as part of the Jewish community, according to Halacha law, opened the door for them to make this journey. However, despite being identified as Jews, the migration process still encountered many difficulties and challenges, from political barriers to logistical shortages. When the Beta Israelites arrived in Israel, they were faced not only with a new country, but also with a modern urbanized society, with challenges that were not easy to overcome. They had to integrate into an established society where they were not the only ones. The difficulties in their new life were not few, from discrimination to challenges in adapting to a new living environment. But the Beta Israelites did not give up. With strong faith and perseverance, they have contributed to Israel's development in the fields of education, technology, and government. The journey of the Beta Israelites is a living testament to the power of faith and resilience. They overcame severe challenges throughout the centuries and eventually returned to their ancestral land, where they could live in freedom and integrate with their people. It is a profound lesson in faith, perseverance, and people's resilience to pursue freedom and integration. The prophecy in Deuteronomy 34:4 is not only a promise to the Israelites, but also a reminder of the power of faith and resilience. God was always there for them, guiding them through their trials and tribulations, and in the end, He fulfilled His promise. The return journey of the Beta Israelites is a clear testament to their loyalty and absolute trust in God. They overcame significant challenges to realize the dream of Zion, and this return became an indispensable part of the history of the Jewish people. This journey was not only about returning to the land of their ancestors, but also about a new life, a new hope, and a bright future. And that is the faith that never faded in the hearts of the Beta Israelites. They proved that nothing is impossible for those who trust God's promises. The dream of Zion was not just the dream of Beta Israel. It is a reminder to all of us of the importance of faith, of the power of perseverance and determination, and of finding hope, even in the most difficult times. That dream came true, and indeed, other dreams will follow. Number 5. Journey of Recovery and Hope. The journey of the Beta Israel, Ethiopian Jewish community to return to the land of Israel after centuries of isolation in Ethiopia is a story of challenge and hope. Although the biblical promises of Israel's return were fulfilled, the journey was difficult. As the Beta Israel entered the Promised Land, they not only faced social discrimination, but also had to adapt to a modern society where many new challenges awaited them. The lessons of their journey offer us insight into the power of faith and resilience in the face of adversity. The Bible says that the Israelites would return from the remotest corners of the earth, Deuteronomy 34, Isaiah 43, 5-6, and the Beta Israel community was already present in Israel. But this return was not simply a geographical journey. It is also a rebirth, a new life beginning in a challenging society. They face difficulties not only from the social environment but also from drastic changes in their life background. One of the biggest challenges this community faces upon returning is racism and social discrimination. Due to differences in culture, language, and customs, Beta Israel are seen as outsiders, even though they share the same Jewish beliefs and history. The Beta Israels, who mostly come from remote villages in Ethiopia where they live in rural communities, face a distinct difference from other Jewish groups in modern Israeli society. This makes them feel isolated and out of place in their new homeland. In addition to racism, the transition from a rural life to an urbanized society is also a great challenge for them. Previously, they lived in a small community, mainly based on agriculture and following strict Jewish traditions. However, when they came to Israel, a modern and developed country, they faced the demands of an industrial economy with highly skilled professions, from education to technology. This meant that they not only had to relearn Hebrew to communicate, but also had to adapt to new skills to participate in a society that required an understanding of science, technology, and the market economy. However, despite the difficulties in language and skills, the Beta Israel people gradually rebuilt their lives in the complex Israeli society. Despite the significant challenges, the Beta Israel community has also demonstrated its strength and resilience, significantly contributing to Israeli society in many areas. One of the most important contributions is in education. They have proactively built educational institutions in Israel, especially in the places where they live. These schools help their young generation learn and develop, but also help preserve ancient Jewish cultural values in a modern society. In addition to education, the Beta Israel community has also contributed to the strong development of the technology industry in Israel. Many members of this community have become prominent experts in the fields of engineering, information technology, and software. They have helped promote the development of high-end industries in Israel, demonstrating their outstanding strength in the new environment. The Beta Israel community also participates in politics and social work, fighting for the rights of minority communities and contributing to building a diverse and equitable Israeli society. Their contributions not only help them integrate, but also enrich Israeli society, proving that challenges can be overcome with faith and resilience. However, the most essential thing the Beta Israel community brings is a lesson in resilience. They are living proof of God's promise that they can still stand despite great hardship. Their journey is a story of resilience, hope, and faith in restoration. Their return from their traumatic days in Ethiopia is not only a fulfillment of prophecy, but also a message of restoration and perseverance for the nation. And the final lesson we can learn from the journey of the Beta Israel community is about restoration in faith. No matter how difficult the trials, God's promises will never be broken. God promised to bring the people of Israel back from the farthest corners of the world, and those promises have come true. Through the journey of Beta Israel, we see that no matter how many hardships we go through, faith in God's promises will lead us to a brighter future. In this journey, the Beta Israel community found the promised land and faith and strength to overcome the most difficult challenges. And so, their story is a living testament to the fact that in every challenge, when we put our trust in God, recovery and hope will always be worthy rewards. Beta Israel, a Jewish community living in Ethiopia, has maintained their traditions and faith for over 1,000 years without being widely discovered by the outside world. They live in secrecy, preserving the ancient teachings passed down by their ancestors, overcoming many historical events, wars, and separations. Through the story of Beta Israel, we realize the miraculous power of faith and perseverance in preserving spiritual values despite all challenges. The lesson we can learn from Beta Israel is steadfastness in faith and loyalty to the sacred values given by God. No matter how complex or challenging life is, faith in God is always the source of strength to help us overcome. Like Beta Israel, each of us has our path to find God. Through it, every step we take is part of the incredible journey of salvation and restoration. Let us learn from Beta Israel's story to keep our faith and live a life full of hope, because even in the darkness or trials, God's light always shines and guides us. End of preface. Follow and subscribe to the channel to discover together inspiring stories of faith, hope, and restoration in our lives. Number 6. God's Covenant, a journey of struggle and redemption. Chapter 6. In the timeless narrative of the Bible, God's covenant with His people is one of perseverance, transformation, and divine purpose. Like the Beta Israel's migration from rural Ethiopia to urbanized Israel, the journey of the Israelites mirrors the trials and triumphs faced when transitioning to a new identity while holding steadfast to faith. When God called Abraham to leave his homeland, it marked the first step of a divine promise that would echo across generations. The Israelites were chosen, but their path was not without tribulation. Enslaved in Egypt, their plight was one of suffering and discrimination, mirroring the struggles of Beta Israel in adapting to modern Israeli society. Both groups faced systemic challenges, poverty, exclusion, and cultural dissonance that tested their resilience. However, God's intervention was unwavering. In the wilderness, the Israelites wrestled with doubt and identity, much like those navigating the complexities of urban life after rural isolation. God provided manna, a symbol of sustenance and hope, teaching them reliance on His grace. Similarly, despite initial hardships, Beta Israel has thrived, contributing to Israel's progress in technology, education, and government. Their story becomes a testament to faith and perseverance, illuminating how God equips His people to overcome. The Bible captures a profound truth. Transformation often emerges from adversity. Moses, an unlikely leader with a stutter, stood before Pharaoh armed only with God's authority. David, a shepherd boy, felled Goliath with faith as his weapon. These stories remind us that God's power is made perfect in weakness. In modern times, individuals and communities facing discrimination must cling to the belief that they too are part of God's unfolding story. In their journey, the Israelites learned that God's promises often require faith amidst uncertainty. Crossing the Red Sea was a physical act and a spiritual declaration of trust in God's provision. Similarly, Beta Israel's integration into a fast-pacing society demanded courage and resilience, proving that God's purpose transcends human barriers. What captivates us in these stories is the hardship and redemption. When Joshua led the Israelites into the Promised Land, it was a moment of fulfillment, a culmination of faith and perseverance. Today, the accomplishments of Beta Israel in shaping modern Israel resonate with this same theme. God's covenant is alive, continuously manifesting through His people. The narrative of the Bible is not merely historical, it is a mirror reflecting our modern struggles and triumphs. As we read these accounts, we are reminded of the unchanging character of God, merciful, just, and faithful. God's promise remains in the face of discrimination, poverty, or cultural alienation. I will never leave you, nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 21 verse 6. In the end, the story of God's covenant is a call to trust in His purpose, even when the path is unclear. Whether in ancient Israel or the bustling streets of Tel Aviv, his work is evident in the lives of those who dare to believe. This is the enduring power of faith, a light in the wilderness, a bridge over troubled waters, and a testament to the unyielding love of the Creator. Number 7. The fulfillment of biblical prophecies, a living testament to faith. In the vast tapestry of history, certain events stand out as more than mere occurrences. They resonate with a divine melody, echoing promises made in sacred scripture. Among such events is the remarkable journey of Beta Israel, a community whose story intertwines with ancient prophecy, faith, and perseverance. The prophet Isaiah once penned words of extraordinary weight. "I will bring your offspring from the east and gather you from the west." Isaiah chapter 43, verses 5 through 6. These verses, spoken to a people scattered across nations, carried a hope that seemed almost too bold and impossible to fulfill. And yet, millennia later, we find these words vividly realized in the return of Beta Israel to their ancestral homeland. Beta Israel, also known as the Ethiopian Jews, had long clung to their faith amidst isolation and adversity. Their story is one of profound resilience. For centuries, they safeguarded the Mosaic law, celebrated the festivals of the Torah, and prayed for the day when they would be reunited with their brethren. Their journey was not merely geographical, it was spiritual, a passage through trials that tested and refined their faith. In the 20th century, a series of extraordinary events unfolded, breathing life into Isaiah's ancient prophecy. Amid political turmoil and persecution, Israel launched Operation Moses in 1984 and Operation Solomon in 1991. These daring missions brought thousands of Beta Israel from Ethiopia to Israel, embodying the prophetic vision of a dispersed people returning home. One might pause and marvel at the sheer improbability of these operations. How could such a scattered group, separated by geography, culture, and time, find their way back to the land promised to their ancestors? The answer lies in a mysterious convergence of human effort and divine orchestration. Governments collaborated, risks were taken, yet behind every logistical challenge was the quiet assurance of a more excellent hand at work. The fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy reminds us that the promises of Scripture are not mere poetry. They are declarations of a God who intervenes in history, weaving his purposes through the lives of individuals and nations. Beta Israel's return speaks to the heart of this truth. It stands as a living testament to faith, resilience, and the enduring power of hope. But their story does not end with the fulfillment of prophecy. Beta Israel's arrival in the modern state of Israel presented its challenges. Integration into a new society, learning new languages, and preserving their ancient traditions in a rapidly modernizing world required tremendous strength. And yet, their resilience once again shone brightly. They adapted and contributed to the cultural and spiritual mosaic of Israel. Today, Beta Israel's legacy serves as an inspiration. Their journey from Ethiopia to Israel is a vivid reminder that God's promises are not bound by time. When the prophet spoke of restoration and gathering, they spoke to their contemporaries and all generations. The story of Beta Israel invites us to trust in the faithfulness of God, even when the fulfillment of his promises seems far off. In reflecting on this extraordinary narrative, one cannot help but be reminded of the Apostle Paul's words in Romans, "For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable." Romans 11:29. The return of Beta Israel, like other moments in biblical history, underscores the truth that what God has spoken, he will accomplish. As we consider the fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy, let us also examine our own lives. Are there promises we've doubted, hopes we've abandoned, or prayers we've stopped uttering? The story of Beta Israel reminds us that God's timing is perfect. He works in ways that may seem hidden for a time, but are revealed in their fullness to those who wait in faith. Beta Israel's return is more than a historical footnote. It is a call to remember God's faithfulness, stand firm in hope, and trust in the ultimate fulfillment of his promises. Like the ancient prophecies fulfilled in their journey, our stories are part of a larger narrative, a divine symphony that echoes through eternity. Number 8. Legacy of resilience. In the vast tapestry of human history, no narrative is as profound, as unyielding, as the story of Christ and the biblical odyssey surrounding him. Woven into the annals of time, it is a story of faith that defies despair, a tale of endurance in the face of insurmountable odds, and a testament to the ultimate triumph of hope and redemption. 2,000 years ago, in the humblest of beginnings, the birth of Jesus Christ unfolded not in grandeur but in a stable, under the light of a single star. This moment, foretold by the prophets of old, marked the culmination of centuries of anticipation. Isaiah's prophecy, spoken centuries prior, resonated through the ages. "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder." From that manger, a legacy began that would transform the spiritual and cultural landscape of the world. Jesus' life was one of paradox and purpose. A carpenter by trade, he spoke words that shook kingdoms. A man who had no earthly wealth, he offered riches of the soul. His teachings defied societal norms, emphasizing love over law, mercy over judgment, and the eternal over the temporal. "Blessed are the peacemakers," he said, "for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are the people overlatching over time. Blessed are the people who love themselves and confounded the powerful." Yet it was not his words alone that defined his legacy. His actions, the healing of lepers, the raising of the dead, the feeding of multitudes with a few loaves and fish, illustrated the tangible power of his divine mission. Each miracle was not merely an act of compassion, but a declaration of the kingdom he proclaimed. They were signs that pointed to a greater reality, that the God who created the universe had stepped into history, bridging the chasm between the divine and the human. However, the narrative does not shy away from darkness. Betrayed by one of his own, Jesus was humiliated and suffered. The Roman cross, an instrument of shame and death, became the stage for the ultimate act of sacrifice. As he hung there, bruised and bloodied, the words he uttered were not condemnation, but forgiveness. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." In that moment, the weight of sin was borne by one who was sinless, fulfilling the prophecy of Isaiah. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. Yet the story does not end with death. On the third day the tomb was empty, and Christ appeared to his disciples. His resurrection was not merely the culmination of his ministry, but the cornerstone of Christian faith. "If Christ has not been raised," wrote the Apostle Paul, "your faith is futile. You are still in your sins." But Christ was raised, and in that act, he shattered the chains of death and opened the gates of eternal life for all who believe. What makes this story enduring and compelling is not only its divine protagonist, but its relevance to every human soul. The Gospel's message is not confined to ancient texts or distant lands. It speaks to humanity's universal struggles. It addresses the questions that linger in every heart. Is there purpose in suffering? Is there hope beyond despair? Can brokenness be made whole? Through the lives of those who followed him, the story of Christ continues to unfold. Once timid and uncertain, the apostles became bold witnesses, spreading the message of salvation across the known world. Their resilience in the face of persecution, their unwavering faith in the promises of God, and their willingness to lay down their lives serve as a powerful testimony to the gospel's transformative power. Even today, the legacy of Christ's story echoes in the hearts of believers who live out their faith in acts of love, justice, and mercy. From the humble missionary bringing aid to remote villages to the everyday individual choosing forgiveness over resentment, the gospel's impact is both global and deeply personal. It inspires not only faith, but also a profound sense of purpose and community. The story of Jesus Christ in the Bible is more than a historical account. It is an invitation. It calls each reader and listener to step into its pages and find their place within its grand narrative. It beckons us to embrace the hope it offers, to draw strength from its promises, and to live lives that reflect its truths. As the psalmist wrote, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." This light continues to shine in a world often shrouded in darkness, guiding all who seek it toward a legacy of resilience, redemption, and eternal hope. Number 9. Faith's Journey, a reflection on God's enduring promises. The Bible is more than a collection of ancient texts. It is a tapestry of divine promises, human struggles, and the boundless grace of God. Every thread of its narrative shows the profound interplay of faith and purpose, reminding us that God's hand is always at work. Among the many stories illuminating this truth, few are as poignant as the journey of God's people through trials and deliverance. Each moment invites us to reflect on the enduring significance of faith and its relevance to our lives today. One such tale of profound impact is the story of the Beta Israel community, often referred to as the Ethiopian Jews. For centuries they held fast to their faith, keeping the Sabbath, following Mosaic laws, and clinging to the hope of returning to Jerusalem. This hope was not merely cultural, but deeply rooted in the promises of God, the covenant made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, promising descendants and a homeland. Their story is one of perseverance. Imagine a people isolated from the broader Jewish world, enduring societal pressures, and yet steadfastly maintaining their identity and faith. It was as if they were living echoes of the Israelites in Egypt, waiting for deliverance. And that deliverance came in a modern-day Exodus, Operation Moses and Operation Solomon. In these daring missions, thousands of Beta Israel members were airlifted to Israel, fulfilling their ancient dream and reinforcing the unbroken faithfulness of God. This journey serves as a testament to the resilience of belief. It shows how faith, no matter how distant or forgotten it may seem, finds its way back to the forefront of history. Beta Israel's Odyssey reminds us of the biblical themes woven throughout Scripture: exile, longing, redemption, and restoration. Their story challenges us to consider our own lives. Are we, like them, holding on to the promises of God, despite our circumstances? Do we trust that His timing, though often mysterious, is perfect? Another striking parallel can be drawn to the promises given to the lost tribes of Israel. Many biblical prophecies speak of a time when God will gather His people from the four corners of the earth. Isaiah 11:12, Ezekiel 37:21. The story of Beta Israel, their return and the preservation of their unique identity, is a glimpse into this larger narrative of restoration. It invites us to ponder what other mysteries of God's plan are yet to unfold, and what role do we play in these divine orchestrations? Beyond the historical and prophetic significance, this story calls us to action. First, it invites us to reflect on biblical history not as a distant past, but as a living testimony to God's faithfulness. The Bible's stories are not relics but mirrors, reflecting the struggles, hopes, and victories that shape our journeys. Second, it urges us to share these tales with others. In a world increasingly disconnected from its spiritual roots, these stories serve as anchors, reminding us of who we are and whose we are. Finally, it challenges us to seek out and explore connections to other biblical mysteries. What does it mean to be part of God's story? How can we support the continued discovery and preservation of these narratives? The story of Beta Israel is not just their story. It is our story, a part of the grand tapestry of redemption and renewal that God is weaving through time. C.S. Lewis once remarked, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world." The story of Beta Israel shouts of God's enduring promises, echoing the same faithfulness that brought Joseph to Egypt, Moses through the Red Sea, and the exiles back to Jerusalem. It is a story that rouses us from complacency and calls us to believe anew in the power and purpose of God. So let us not view these tales as distant or detached. They are invitations to partake in God's narrative and see His hand at work in history and our lives. May we, like the Beta Israel, remain steadfast in our faith, hopeful in His promises, and watchful for His deliverance. For in every trial and triumph, God is writing a story, and we are part of it. Gerald Real Sturgis. In reflecting on the extraordinary journey of Beta Israel, we find a narrative rich with resilience, faith, and the enduring spirit of a community guided by their connection to ancient biblical traditions. Their migration from a land of hardship to the fulfillment of prophetic aspirations in Israel mirrors timeless themes of human perseverance and the search for belonging. The story of Beta Israel is not just one of historical significance. but a testament to the power of hope and unity in overcoming adversity. As we ponder their legacy, we are reminded that every journey carries lessons, and every arrival marks a new beginning filled with challenges and opportunities. If you find inspiration in stories like this and wish to explore more about biblical mysteries, hidden texts, and ancient traditions, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. Join us as we uncover the fascinating tales that shape our shared heritage and continue to inspire us today. Thank you for watching.